everyone, welcome to another movie of the week. It is number 4, the 4th week, you know what I'm saying, and the movie of the week was Election from 1999. So if you haven't watched it already, go watch it now. Movie of the week is like a book club, but it's a movie club where every week there's a new movie and I talk about it here, and you guys can write in the comments below your thoughts and feelings about the movie, and then I'll respond to all your comments and everything, and at the end of every video I'll talk about the movie for next week, so you have a week to prepare. But this week was Election, so if you haven't watched it yet, watch it now. So in thinking about this movie, it was my second time seeing this movie, and I actually kind of didn't remember a lot about what it was about. Like, honestly, a lot of movies I at least remember the basic plot, but for some reason, when I was picking out what movies to do for movie of the week, I just kind of saw Election and thought I remember it was good, but didn't remember why, and kind of always wanted to rewatch it again, so that's why I included it for movie of the week. But other than there's an election, and I remember that Reese's characters trying to win the election, I didn't really remember what the movie was about, which is great because it was kind of I was watching it for the first time, learning it again. And sometimes that happens where after your first time watch a movie and then years go by, you forget what happens, but you can still learn from it. So I think it was a good movie that I picked because something that this movie did was narration, right? And I don't know if I just learned this in film school, if I also just learned this because it's kind of common knowledge. A lot of movies, when they have narration, that is ultimate bad sign, ultimate red flag if a movie has to have a narration. And I feel it's something that's even heavily done more these days, where it's a coming of age, something in high school where it starts out hi, my name is this and I'm this and I have one friend and this is the popular person and this is the jock guy and this is the person I have a crush on and this is the weird guy, and just kind of opening to set the scene. But what we learned either in film school or whatever, I'm sure I've learned it in film school too, that if there has to be narration, that's a bad sign because your story is not strong enough on its own. So this movie had narration, but it did it differently. And I think that's what films that do narration but do it in a different way is when it's okay, is when it works, if it's unique. And that's why I thought this film is a good example, because of its use of narration is what drove the story. There would be no story without the narration because of the way it was used. I don't know if this makes any sense, but if you have watched a movie, they have it where it's technically narrated by the four different people, the 3 people running, and then the teacher. And unless there's one somewhere else, someone else, but they do it where it's not just one person, and they do it where it intermixes, it's one person for a little bit, then it's the next person, and so on and so on. And they do it in a way where it doesn't feel too long on one person and it runs smoothly, and it's a way that, the sister who's running, we don't see her until 20-30 minutes in, and then her narration comes and you kind of see her perspective on things. Also, with the narration, they use techniques freeze frames. A lot of times it was freeze frames in Reese's face as he was thinking. And it was also a way where it's just a lot of films that I use with narration, it's just in the moment, but they use narration to also then show in the past and things like that. So the use of narration is really strong, and that's if you're someone studying film and you want to use narration in your film, think about it. Does your film actually need narration? Because a lot of times you can just write it on its own and you can make it writing on its own. If you want to use narration as a tool to really push for the story and make the story, that's when it's okay, I guess. I also think what this film does well is just moves through the scenes so effortlessly, you don't even notice. I think that's what's great about all the films that I've shown thus far and hope to show, is that it doesn't necessarily you're not when you're watching, you're oh, I'm watching a movie, I'm bored, blah blah. You're just watching a movie and you're just enjoying it, and the scenes are running smoothly and just running through. And I think that's something that a lot of times in this 21st century we're missing from our films, is just easy storylines where that just scenes go after one another and they just make sense and it just runs smoothly and everything. I think it's funny because the first time now I'm because I watched, you know, I didn't remember a lot from the first time. Now that I watch it again, I'm like, oh yeah, remembering things for the first time. And I feel like the first time I watched it, I was rooting for the teacher. I was rooting for the history teacher. And I don't know if they purposely want you to root for him or if they don't want you and he's kind of like an anti-protagonist, because I feel like they do show it through, like, just the way they also have Reese's character, like, I don't know, they like, but they want you to root for him or they don't or something. I don't know. My first time I was rooting for him, but this time I was like not as rooting for him that much. Like, I was rooting more for Reese's character. That I think maybe when I'm older and I more realize like that other teacher took advantage of her, and like you think like you don't, I didn't realize that like to the full extent the first time, and how she just like wanted someone who was her friend to talk to, and he like took advantage of her. And then this history teacher is mad at her about it because that took away his best friend, when really like he's the villain. And then he like did that whole thing in the end, which was like, I was kind of hoping, I kind of forgot about it, but then when I realized, oh my god, I was like, this is so good. But I was kind of hoping that it was the entire time like the other wife was like planning it, like they were planning it together, like to see if he actually would do something, and then he did. But it seemed like, oh, she like did it as a mistake and then told her. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Yeah, this time I definitely watching it, I was rooting more for Reese's character and kind of hated like the history teacher, and in the end like she wins and he doesn't. And so I think maybe that's why you do in some ways root for him or feel sorry for him, because then his life kind of like, he thinks he's like, oh, I'm so happy and my life is amazing, but like he's mad and he like throws that drink at their car. Like I don't know, comment below your thoughts about that. But yeah, overall I also want to add that like a lot of the films, I feel like before the 21st century, like these characters, they like really like, you can see their personality, they really get into the character and they're like that character. It's like good acting. And like the guy who's running for the president, when he's like, oh hi, like the way he says oh hi this like the entire time, and it's just like nice personality. It's just like, and it just, these characters, like how they wrote the characters, it's so just. And I feel like we're missing that from our writing in 21st century movies. So anyway, that's all my thoughts. I know it was a lot, I feel like I didn't really talk much about the plot, just talked about like certain elements. Like I talked a lot about the narration. I talked about how this time I was reading more of Reese's character and just elements. But yeah, please comment below all your thoughts and feelings about Election, and I will respond to your comments. And so the movie for next week is The Great Dictator from 1940, Charlie Chaplin. So as you can still see, no movies in the 2000s, and this is actually thus far the oldest movie that I'm doing for Movie of the Week. But this movie is very important. So The Great Dictator 1940, make sure you watch it for next week. And make sure you comment below all your thoughts and feelings about Election. And I'm probably missing things, but yeah, comment below and I'll get to all of them. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and bye.